Hi, and welcome to this 4NAV coffee break. My name is René Brummel. I'm a product specialist at 4NAV, and I will be your presenter today. As this coffee break is live, you can ask your questions via the GoToWebinar question window. We will answer them at the end of the coffee break. Today, we're going to add terms and conditions per language to your Business Central reports. Appending or prepending PDF files to a 4NAV report has been possible for years. Up until recently though, you could not dynamically change these appended PDF files based on conditions in your data. That is now possible. You can change the file you pre or append based on the document's language, dimension, responsibility center, or any other value in your data. To demonstrate adding terms and conditions per language, I'm going to use these steps. The prerequisites, what do I need to get going? In step 2, I will add the PDF documents. In step 3, I will add the JavaScript records. In step 4, I will write the JavaScript to append the terms and conditions. Let's start with the first step. Today, I will add terms and conditions per language in the Business Central Cloud Sandbox with the Business Central 2022 Wave 1 release. I've installed the 4NAV customizable report pack and I've executed the step-by-step wizard from the assisted setup to get started. Of course, everything I do today is also available on the Business Central on-premise environment. I also have the 4NAV Designer installed on my PC. The 4NAV Designer can be downloaded from the 4NAV website. The first thing we need to do is store the PDF files somewhere. Any place in the Business Central database will work, but today we will use the 4NAV file storage table. So to do that, let's move over to Business Central. And in Business Central we can search for the 4NAV file storage table. And the file storage table is a really simple table where you can store files, maybe images, PDF files, or anything else. And you can store them based on a code and a type. So for the code, I'm going to use the language code that we are working on, and then I'll give them a type, which will be terms, because you may add a logo or a watermark per language as well. So I'll use terms, and then I will import my file, which will be from my coffee break folder. There we have the terms and conditions in German. And of course I can do the same for English. And of course there's no reason to stop at 2 languages. You can add as many PDF files in as many languages as you want based on your business requirements. So I've added my German terms and conditions and my English terms and conditions. I'm ready for the next step. Once we've stored the PDF files somewhere, we need to tell the 4NAV Designer where they are so we can use them in our report. And we will use JavaScript records for that. And these are JavaScript records like we've used before. Only they are slightly different this time because we are not going to add a table relation, but we're just going to add filters. So basically we get 2 static records, one with the German conditions and one with the English conditions. So once I've opened my report in the 4NAV Designer, I can find my records. And in the records, we have the normal company information and 4NAV setup. I can add the 4NAV file storage table. Which is right here. And then, like I said, I'm not going to add a link reference or a link. But once I've created the file storage table, I'm going to add a where clause where I'm going to specify which file I want to get. So the code is going to be DEU and my type is going to be terms. So that will get me the record for my German terms and conditions. And I will rename this terms DEU. And of course I need to calculate my data field. The terms and conditions PDF files is stored in a blob field which needs to be calculated after you get the record. So that's what this property will do for us. And then of course I need to do the same thing for my English terms and conditions. So for this one, my code will be ENU, and my type, of course, will be terms as well. This record I will call terms ENU, and my calculated field, of course, will be added right there. So that will get me the two records. The conditions, the where clause that I've specified will get the single terms and conditions file that I'm going to need, and calculating the field will actually get me the PDF file I need. Finally, we got to the nicest part of this coffee break. At least I do. I like JavaScript. So we are going to append the files with JavaScript. It's not that hard to do so. All we need to do is add these terms and conditions to the PDF store, and then use them based on our header language. So the first thing we're going to do is in the onPre report, we are going to get the data from our terms and conditions tables. So we have the terms German data and the terms ENU data, and we are going to store those in a variable which is inside the 4nav report. If you have the curl report data items header.pdf, you have a store property where you can store data based on certain conditions. So we're going to store the German data based on the German, and we are going to store the English data based on the ENU code. And once we've done that, we can use these stored PDF files anywhere in our report. And that anywhere in our report is, of course, after we are going to read the header data from the database. So we select the header and find the onAfterGet record for the header. And in there we are going to write the code that will get the PDF file and uses it. Now I've got a slightly more complicated setup than you might normally use, because I have many different languages in my database. I'm actually working on a Swiss sandbox today. So I have the case where my language code is DEU. I have a case where my language code is DES, and it may be German, Austria, or wherever as well. In that case, I'm going to append from store my DEU PDF file, and default in any other case, I'm going to use my ENU PDF file. So this is, like I said, a slightly more complicated setup. So in my setup, whenever I have a German-speaking customer, I'm going to append my German terms and conditions, and for everybody else, so whether I'm sending my invoices to France or to the UK or wherever else, I'm going to use my English terms and conditions. You can do this slightly easier if you want. If you have a simpler setup where you just have German and English, for instance, you can also use this. And this will simply append from store based on your language code. But like I said, that only works for the exact language. If I want that to work in my current setup, I would need to add a third terms and conditions for the DES language code. And doing it this way, I can use my German terms and conditions for every language. So that's my JavaScript. Once I've done that, I can start previewing. And I will preview this for all of the invoices in my database. It's not a really big database, but it still takes a while for all of these invoices to be rendered. There we go. It always takes longer when you wait for it. Let's move back one step, because right now I can't see which language my report is in. So let me just grab the language code onto my report. That will allow us to check if our report terms and conditions is actually in the correct language. There we go. Let's hope it's faster now. That's better. So first invoice is language code DES, German Switzerland, where we have a terms and conditions in German. We have DES again in German. We have an English invoice where we have the terms and conditions in English. And if we scroll down a little bit further, we have a DEU invoice which has its terms and conditions in German once again. So let's recap what we just did. The first thing we did was to add the terms and conditions to the ForNav file storage table. Once we had these, we could load them into two separate JavaScript records in the ForNav report. We did not use a table relation for this, we just set the record filters to get the matching record. Finally, we loaded the terms and conditions files in the onPre-report JavaScript trigger. Then, in the header on afterGetRecord trigger, we could use the header.language code to switch between the different PDF files. Thank you for listening to me so far. I can see we have no questions at the moment, so I will continue with wrapping up this coffee break. If you want to know more about ForNav, or if you want to download the ForNav Designer and Converter, please go to our website. If you want to install ForNav in Business Central Cloud, please visit Microsoft App Source. You can watch more videos about ForNav on our YouTube channel. If you have any questions about ForNav, please email them to support@fornav.com. For a full list of upcoming and recorded coffee breaks, please visit fornav.com/coffeebreak. Thank you very much for listening today. Goodbye.